Okay, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of Come Think with Me. It's kind of a free format I'm experimenting with. The other time I was thinking a lot about language learning as I often do, and I needed to share my thoughts. It's kind of the same thing now, but because I really appreciated the flow it got me in, and I don't know, the peace of mind it brought me at night with my tea. Have another tea now. I wanted to do one again. Fun fact: I tried to do this yesterday, but somehow my laptop wouldn't record. Something was wrong, so I had to do it again today. Figure out something today. Earlier today, I filmed. Yeah, I filmed the other video about slow and steady French 3 with another software because the software I was using just didn't work well. And now I'm doing this. My microphone may be too far from me. Wait a second. Why is it not cooperating? Okay. All good. Audio level minus 18 decibels. It's all good. I'll take care of it. So yeah, basically it's nighttime here. A bit before going to bed, pour myself some tea and think about languages. I like this time of the day because I just have like another. My brain functions on another level. I'm just calmer, and I wouldn't say I'm wiser, but my thoughts are arranged differently, and I appreciate thinking in that state of mind. Okay, so let's get started. Today, the subject is going to be that there's no point in learning a language because it is useful. Now, I know this is going completely counter with everything out there, but that's what I think, and I want to make a case for it. Basically, I think that why you choose to learn a language has a lot to do with your later success. So what I mean is, we've all heard of some dude trying to learn French to impress girls and get girls. Is this dude fluent now? No. That's the douchebag version of I'm learning this language because it's useful. Now, sometimes you are forced to learn a language, meaning you're immigrating to another country, or I don't know, your partner speaks that language. This is very different because the circumstances bring you to it. So you won't ever encounter the situation where you have or you feel like you have to study that language and continue seeking exposure to that language, but you don't want to, because if you're living in the country or if your partner speaks that language, you have to. The elements will force you. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how people choose a language because it has a lot of speakers. And this is very unfortunate because I think, number one, it really disregards the languages that are less spoken. I mean, like, where do you set the bar? Is 100 million enough? 100 millions enough? Or is it 200, 300? What languages do you learn? Do you just learn the three top languages? Because if that's the case, you should also learn what is what? Mandarin, English, Spanish. I think there's Bengali or Bangladesh from Bangladesh. Arab. Well, Arab no, because there's a lot of dialects, but and French, Portuguese. People don't just learn those languages. There are so many other languages that you can learn and that have as rich of a culture or as interesting of a people. And I think that when you say I want to learn this language because it is useful, because it has a lot of speakers, it's I mean, like, it's just on the surface level. It's when you speak a language, you don't realize how many speakers speak it or not accurately, meaning that you just realize how many people you meet, and you're not meeting the billion Chinese speakers or Mandarin speakers. You're not. You're only meeting perhaps a few dozens in your life, and those are going to be immigrants. Most likely, they're going to be bicultural. So, like, it's not as important as it might seem, because let's say you choose a language that has like what 5 million speakers. It seems like nothing compared in comparison to English or French or any language like this, because it has like 100 times more, 200 times more speakers. But if you think about it, the number of people that you will meet in your life is not anywhere close to, I forgot the stat, but it's certainly less than 1 million. And there are many, many, many languages that are of 1 million, 5 million speakers, or in that range, and that are very interesting and are very disregarded as well. So when you say I'm learning this language because there's a lot of speakers, well, it kind of doesn't really make sense, because the number of people you will encounter and that speak that language, this very much depends on who you are, where you live, and also what language it is. So, because if you take, I'm gonna put English as a different breed here, because I think you need English to learn other languages. So disregard English, and I'm talking to English speakers. So, but if you think of, yeah, Mandarin Chinese is a great example. People say it's a very useful language, but number one, it's a very different culture from the Western culture. So it's very hard to meet and have, okay, I'm taking some risk here, but have some to connect with Chinese people, because number one, it's hard to go to China and to live there because it's such a different culture. And the people that are in the Western world, either they don't speak English and it's hard to find them, or either they're bicultural and like they're more of the culture of they have more of the culture they live in, of the country they live in, than the Chinese culture. Even though it's still great. I mean, like, if you want to go learn Mandarin Chinese, by all means go ahead. You'll have some fun. It's a very interesting language, I think. And anyway, any language is interesting, so go learn it. But the reason, if the reason is it has 1 billion speakers, well, it doesn't really make sense to me. And I think that this is very shallow, and down the road, it won't help you, because you won't have this reason deep inside you that make you persist, that make you chase fluency, or that make you keep trying at it, because it gets hard. But you know that if you've tried to learn any language, you've probably bumped into the hardcoreness that it can bring in terms of emotions and mental load. It's so hard to adapt to another language, and I'm choosing my words here wisely. Adapt and not learn, because I think that we grow into the language and we don't learn it per se. But this is maybe a subject for another video. But yeah, and what do you want to say too? I had something in mind. Let me take a sip of my tea. You'll come back. What was it? Darn it. And yeah, when you say I'm learning, for example, Spanish is a great example for this, because when you say I'm learning Spanish because it has 500 million speakers, native, maybe a bit less. Well, okay, that's true, but do they all speak the same Spanish? No, not at all. It's, I think every Spanish speaker understand each other, but they won't share the same worldview or the same culture for that matter. So when you say you learn Spanish, it's you have to be more specific than this. What Spanish do you learn? Are you learning a Latin Spanish, or are you learning Spaniard Spanish, or like European Spanish? And the European Spanish, the Spanish from where? From Catalonia, from Valencia. Like there's, and even it's even worse for Latin America, because then it can be so many countries: Panama, Colombia, Argentina. All of them have different accents, different sets of vocabulary, a different culture, different dishes, so on and so on. So when you say I'm learning this language that has that many speakers, well, if you want to really connect with the language and the people, you have to choose one particular, I'd say, like region, or at least like group of people that you can connect with. Otherwise, like, first of all, I don't think there's any standard Spanish. I think every speaker has some sort of attached to one Spanish speaking country. And if a foreigner learns a standard Spanish, it's just means that they have very little, they know very little about the different cultures, and they speak Spanish in a shallow manner. Does that make sense? Meaning they know the vocabulary, they know the words, the verbs, the grammar, but what they say doesn't sound very natural. It kind of sounds robotic. I know this exists with French, especially when people are beginning, and then later on they adapt to the tones of French, because you can speak French in a very academic manner with very academic words, and you sound very robotic. But there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that you still have some work to do, and you still have to adapt to the real French to really connect and understand the intrinsic values of the French speakers and the worldviews and everything. I talk about this a lot, but the culture has a lot to do with how you speak the language. So by saying that you are learning this language because there's this many speakers, to sum it up in one sentence, well, you can do it on the surface, but then once you deep further down in the language, you have to choose your camp. You have to choose from where. And I brought it up earlier in the video. When you say I'm learning this because I keep repeating the sentence. When you say that statement, you are kind of not, I won't say disrespecting. I won't go as far, but sorry. You are disregarding all of the other cultures and other great languages that exist that don't have 100 million speakers, 50 million speakers. And I think you're missing out a lot on that, because number one, if you're visiting any of those countries that have their language, you would find out that their culture is different in a way where they don't share their language with the cultures around them or across the world, like for example English or French. And they can develop a sense of patriotism that is very unique in those small countries. I'm thinking about Slavic countries right now, but there are countless examples. I'm sure that Nordic countries, I don't really know, but I'm sure that the Balkans or Baltic countries as well have this sense where it's kind of like they're like a pocket of their culture that you don't find anywhere else. And it's very interesting to dive into this and just discover all of their ways of living, and you just feel like it's very authentic and unique. The way I can compare this to how you feel when you go in a chain restaurant where everything is like kind of a copy and paste of other restaurants around, or when you go in a mom and pop restaurant where it's like everything is authentic and unique. Does that make sense? I hope it does. It does to me. But like anyway, those smaller cultures, those languages with less speakers, I find it's easier to connect with the people, because foreigners just don't try to understand them and connect with their culture and try to learn their language, because quote unquote there's not enough return on this. But I don't think learning a language should have I don't think you should have an agenda. Or the agenda should be very simple: connections, human connections, and curiosity. You don't need more than this. You'll see where it takes you. You don't know. You don't know who you will meet. You don't know where it will end up taking you. You don't know the experiences that it will bring you. So, and the other way around is true. Like, you're not sure of anything when you're learning a quote unquote language with like a lot of speakers. You just don't know what will happen. Like, I think I can take my example here and say that the language I speak with the most native speakers, Spanish, is the language I use the least. It's not because I don't want to. I like Spanish, but I don't feel as connected to that language as I do to, well, my own native language, French, as I do to Ukrainian. Ukrainian has 35 million speakers. It's ridiculous in comparison to French or English, but I still have the ability to speak Ukrainian very often because I connected with that culture. I met people. I did connections with them. And Spanish, yeah, but not to a lesser extent. I can't explain why, but I think that the fact that it has more native speakers and that it is more of a popular language to learn explains how I got a bit less obsessed over it, and I'm less obsessed with it now that I used to be before. And now my mind just naturally goes more to languages that are less spoken. But yeah, what did I want to say earlier that I cut myself? Jeez. I'll cut this maybe. Wait, let me take a sip of my tea. Yeah, I wanted to bring up why I say that you connect more easily with the people that of culture that has less speakers, because when you go and seek the encounters, it's not that there's more of a reason. It's like there's less of the people, so I don't know, like economics, it makes them scarcer. But no, when you do encounter the people of the culture, they will take it more as a compliment. I'm not talking about shocking natives, because that's not what it is about. That will be so out of range with what I want to share with my philosophy on this. But I'm really talking about when you do end up connecting with those people, it's kind of like an easier icebreaker because you're one of the few that does it. And it's kind of like, to them, it looks like you're committing to their culture, and it's very flattering, which I understand. It is. It is. And the fact that you do this is brave, first of all, and it kind of like forces you to adapt faster, in my opinion. So by keeping this open-mindedness towards any language, first of all, you have more options, because if you just pick the languages that have 200 million speakers or more, well, you have like what, 6, 7? Tell me in the comments if you know how many languages have more than 200 million speakers. But even if you set the bar at 100 millions, there's so many more languages than this. And I think that you should choose a language not regarding of how many speakers there is, but regarding what do you like, what do you feel attracted to, right? Not what would be useful to you. Doesn't doesn't add up to me. Because, like I said, further down the road, you will need some emotional attachment to the language to really push through when it's hard, when you feel humiliated, because it is humiliating sometimes, or maybe more like humbling, but it feels humiliating because when you're stuck in situations where you don't know the words and everything. But again, that's another discussion. Knowing a language, choosing a language to learn because of emotional attachment you have to that language, or it can just be curiosity and genuine, I'd say, like attraction to that language. It can be because you saw a movie, or you met someone from that culture, but it has to be genuine. That's the main idea here. Once you do this, you have more choices, and you have a better chance of succeeding. And yeah, my advice for ending this video would be, do not feel the pressure. I felt this pressure before. Now I'm completely like separated from it, detached. Do not feel the pressure from others. They will tell you that it's a bad idea to learn a language that has few speakers, because they don't know. No one knows what's going to happen. They don't know if maybe you will meet some friends that will become some of your best friends. Maybe you will move to that country, or you will end up working with that language. Who knows? No one. So just speak a language that feels appealing to you. Don't look at how many people speak it. You should maybe look at if you like the country and would like to go there. I don't know. And I'd say that don't worry too much about, oh, I won't speak it often. If it has, like, let's say more than 200,000 people speaking it, or maybe like let's say about 1 million to be safe, you will meet people. There are going to be immigrants in the country you are. You will find them online, and you can even plan a trip to go there. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying, see if you like the country as well, because it's very important. But yeah, I think it is everything I had in mind around this subject. A few months ago, I was in the airport, and I had this thought of someone that told me, before I was really into Ukrainian, I was just starting to learn. Someone told me, why do you learn this language? Why don't you learn Russian? Russian has more speakers, yada yada. And I was kind of like speechless. I didn't know what to answer. And at the time, I was like, oh, well, maybe they're right. But then I followed through. I continued learning Ukrainian. And today I look back and I'm like, wow, good thing I didn't listen to that advice. Because learning Ukrainian has been like a fantastic experience. I met so many of my friends through this, and I regret no parts of it. And I think I'd speak it more now that if I were to learn Russian. So because I have my experiences. I frequent the people I frequent. I see the people I see. Sorry, that's some French coming in. But yeah, that's kind of what sparked this thought in the airport. I started writing on my phone. I felt all inspired, and now I'm glad that I can use those thoughts to speak freely in front of a camera. I hope that you had a nice time. I hope that you agreed or disagreed with what I said, but you know what? Tell me in the comment if you have some counter arguments. I'd be very happy to hear them. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. À bientôt.